Are you serious? Did we just get Cousins? We just got Kirk Cousins.
Wow. What does this mean? That means some weird stuff.
Industry-wide head-scratcher.
The entire NFL world was shocked when the Atlanta Falcons selected Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. And honestly, add me to that list. However, I don't believe in decisions being absolutely wrong, and while everyone may not agree with the pick, I want to at least try to understand what the Atlanta Falcons are doing here, and to do so, we have to go back to free agency. On March 13th, the Atlanta Falcons signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal with $100 million guaranteed. However, let's discuss how this contract is actually divided and the overall timing of the money. As reported, Cousins' deal included a $50 million signing bonus, which was included in a total of $90 million, which will be due over the next 2 seasons, and in 2026, Kirk Cousins will be owed the last $10 million in guarantees. Alongside Cousins, the Falcons also added Darnell Mooney, Charlie Warner, and Rondale Moore. Pairing this with the signing of Raheem Morris and his coaching staff that he brought over, signing Kirk Cousins only signaled, we're going to the playoffs.
We got to outrun the South.
Despite Cousins coming off of a torn Achilles in 2023, I felt that this was the best avenue for the Falcons' future for a couple of reasons. Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson doesn't have to step too far out of his boundaries to know how to get the best out of Kirk Cousins. Robinson is extremely familiar with the West Coast style system, which Kirk ran to a T in Minnesota. And if you wonder why, both he and Kevin O'Connell coached under Sean McVay in LA. Now, of course the offenses won't be identical, but Robinson can say, hey Kirk, think of that concept that you ran in Minnesota. I want to get that same look, but let's just call it this. Also, the Falcons have weapons which should allow any competent quarterback to succeed. Plus, Kirk Cousins is actually a good quarterback. In 8 games in 2023, Cousins threw for 2,331 yards with an 18 touchdown to 5 interception ratio on a 69.5 completion percentage. That's good football. And then we have to think, this was a team in 2023 who was 3 wins away from an NFC South title, even with the 26th ranked scoring offense and below average quarterback play. So when we take a step back and look at everything in its totality, the Falcons had and still have a strong chance of winning the NFC South. Now for me, I thought that with a strong offseason, now looking at a complete team coming together, the Falcons general manager Terry Fontenot would do everything in his power to get not only the best players on the board, but those who would make the biggest impact. In other words, who would help you win the South in 2023 and for years to come. Now with this in mind, let's fast forward to the draft.
Here we go.
With the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select.
Now, as we awaited this draft pick at number 8, here was my thought process. All of the top-rated defenders are on the board. Laiatu Latu, Quinyon Mitchell, Byron Murphy, plus more. Now, we also know from picks 8 to 15, outside of the Raiders and Colts, there weren't many teams that we saw who would really take a defender. So let's keep that in mind as well. I also want to note, trading back isn't as easy as we think it is oftentimes, especially when teams know you want to trade back. So let's say they couldn't find a trade partner, regardless of whether they wanted to go defense or even offense. Now, let's say hypothetically that their highest rated defenders were Quinyon Mitchell, Dallas Turner, or Byron Murphy. Or let's say they wanted full-on explosion, get Rome Odunze. Now I think this batch of players really helps you in 2023 and for years to come while also attacking a need. And that's what I call a great pick. However, here's what they did.
The Atlanta Falcons select Michael Penix Jr.
Well, there it is.
Quarterback, Washington.
Now, immediate reactions to the pick I think were warranted. Not only is it out of left field, but this isn't a player who is going to start for you right now, especially when you just paid Kirk Cousins like you did. And if drafting a quarterback was the plan, why invest so heavily in the position during free agency? However, This is why you're watching this video. Let's figure out, why did the Falcons make this pick? Here are some of the words from Terry Fontenot on the draft choice. Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We're excited about Kirk. We're very excited about this team. Michael Penix is, we're talking about the future. You look at the future, you look at the big picture. We are very excited about that quarterback room. And again, Kirk is our quarterback, but adding Michael Penix is thinking about the future. Now, here's what head coach Raheem Morris had to say. It's pretty simple for us. When you get Kirk Cousins and you talk about short-term winning and talk about winning right now, which we know we will be in a position to do, we won't have the ability to be picking this high again with the guy that we got. We were lucky enough to watch Matt Ryan play 14 years with the Atlanta Falcons. At some point, you've got to find a way to have that succession plan in place. It just so happened it presented itself tonight. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN also reported that Penix was ranked as the second best quarterback in this class on the Falcons big board and that the team graded him as the draft's best pure passer. When watching Penix's tape, there's obviously a lot to like. He has an effortless throwing motion paired with a tight spiral. He has a powerful arm which allows him to drive the football through deep and intermediate sections of the defense. He'll throw the ball in areas that most quarterbacks just aren't willing to. And he was sacked just 31 times over 1,759 dropbacks per PFF. I personally was a fan of Penix as a first rounder, but evaluations were all over the place, and some evaluators had him outside of the first round. It's just really, what do you emphasize with a top 15 quarterback selection? Those who cautioned against Penix often brought up these points. He'll be 24 at the beginning of the season, and by the time he's the franchise guy, he'll be 26 or even 27 if everything works out with Kirk. For some, it's not quite the age, but rather the injury history, ball placement, inconsistency, or the lack of a true dual threat dynamic on tape. However, all prospects have something that we won't like, even a great prospect like Caleb Williams. But I do like the fact that Penix actually does get to sit and clean up some of those deficiencies while learning under a quarterback who's done it at a high level for years. We've seen it work with quarterbacks sit and develop their game. I don't believe that the Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love comparisons are completely accurate because their predecessors weren't signed to 4 years, 180 just weeks before they were drafted. But I will say, they had the opportunity to work on their game while they sat. And for the Falcons, they're banking on Penix Jr. They truly feel that the good on his tape outweighs the bad. They believe he'll stay healthy, and they also believe that with their evaluation of Penix Jr., that there was no way that they could have traded back and still draft him. For Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris, and Zach Robinson, they see a quarterback that in a West Coast style spread system will put up gaudy numbers for years to come. I firmly believe that if the quarterback isn't right, then nothing else matters. For the next 2 or 3 years, it's hard to see a Falcons team that'll draft in the top 5 to 10 picks with this roster. Plus, we have to account for the rumblings of a tampering hit. Now, there is definitely ways that this can backfire. I think for all of this to even work, Kirk Cousins has to buy into the plan. While he hasn't publicly said anything regarding this selection, I'm pretty sure that being blindsided in this manner can't feel good. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder every practice. I don't want to go through a rough patch and have my own fan base call for my job. I want to have a clear mind and focus on winning football games. And on the other side of it, if Kirk Cousins is playing lights out a few years down the road, are we forced to put in Michael Penix even if he's not the best option? The rookie quarterback contract is one of the most vital things in football. And with the succession plan that they have in place, will they be able to fully maximize it? Bajan's coming up. Drake's coming up. Kyle Pitts is coming up. Key players on the offense that will command big paydays. These are all conversations that I'm sure the Falcons have had. But in their hearts, Michael Penix Jr. is their 10-year guy. It's a gutsy decision, and a lot of people wouldn't have done it. But if it all works out, everyone's frustration won't even matter. This isn't Patrick Mahomes. This isn't Jordan Love. This is Michael Penix Jr., and this is the Atlanta Falcons chess move.